Imagine a country so vast it stretches across 3 time zones. With 17,000 islands, 700 languages, and 270 million people. A country of volcanoes, jungles, and oceans. But here's the question, how do you keep something so divided, united? Welcome to Indonesia. This is Indonesia, one of the most beautiful and complicated countries in the world. Here, there are fire-breathing volcanoes, dense jungles, and stunning beaches. It's a unique country where more than 270 million people live across more than 17,000 islands. Yes, 17,000 islands. Indonesia is the world's largest island country, spread over an area of more than 5,000 kilometers. It also spans across 3 different time zones from Sumatra in the west to Papua in the east. It is the world's 4th most populous country, the largest Muslim-majority country, and one of the most ethnically and linguistically diverse places on Earth. But behind all this beauty, there is a hidden question: how did this country of 17,000 islands come into being? Who ruled here before it became one nation? And how do you govern a country so spread out over the seas? To understand Indonesia's story, we have to dive into history because this is not just a country, but one of modern history's strangest experiments, bringing together thousands of islands, cultures, and volcanoes under one nation. Hundreds of years ago, these islands were the center of Asia's richest and most powerful kingdoms. People lived here in communities, farming and trading across the seas. Positioned between India and China, 2 powerful civilizations, merchants from both passed through, exchanging gold, ideas, and even religious philosophies. Over time, the islands became so important that great empires began to emerge. One such empire was the Srivijaya kingdom in Sumatra around the 7th century. It became a powerful trading hub, controlling sea routes and taxing passing ships. Srivijaya turned into a center of Buddhism, attracting scholars from around the world. Later, in the 13th and 14th centuries, the Majapahit Empire rose in Java. It spread across many islands, known for its art, architecture, and good governance. Hinduism flourished here, and Majapahit became one of Southeast Asia's most powerful empires. But no empire lasts forever. As trade grew, new powers emerged, weakening the kingdoms. Local rulers began to fight, and soon Islam arrived. Around the 13th century, Islam spread here through trade. Merchants from Muslim lands impressed locals with their behavior, and many converted. But just as this transition was unfolding, people from across the seas arrived, people who weren't here to trade, but to conquer. In the early 15th century, ships from the other side of the world landed. They spoke different languages, carried flags, and had powerful weapons. These were the Portuguese, and they were after something very valuable: spices. At that time in Europe, cloves, nutmeg, and pepper were worth as much as gold. Indonesia's Maluku Islands were rich in these spices, and everyone wanted control. Soon after the Portuguese, the Dutch arrived not just to trade, but to rule. In 1602, the Dutch founded the Dutch East India Company, the world's first and largest multinational company with a single goal: to monopolize the spice trade. They built forts, made deals with local rulers, and when deals failed, used force. Gradually, the Dutch ousted the Portuguese and took control of the islands. Local kingdoms either collapsed or submitted. But the Dutch weren't just after spices, they wanted the land, people, and resources. They built cities like Batavia. Modern Jakarta introduced sugar, coffee, and tobacco farming, and forced Indonesians into labor. They took over land, collected heavy taxes, and crushed protests brutally. Yet Indonesians never lost hope. By the early 1900s, dreams of independence turned into a movement. Then came World War II. In 1942, Japan invaded and ended 300 years of Dutch rule. At first, Indonesians welcomed them, hoping for freedom. Japan had promised to free Asia from Europeans. But soon life became harsh: forced labor, little food, and suffering. However, Japan also trained Indonesians militarily, which would later help them. In 1945, after the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan surrendered. Just 2 days later, on the 17th of August 1945, Sukarno and Mohammed had boldly declared Indonesia's independence, but the Dutch refused to accept it, wanting to regain control. A 4-year struggle followed, known as the Indonesian National Revolution. Indonesians resisted with arms and diplomacy, refusing to be colonized again. Finally, in 1949, under global pressure, the Dutch relented. Indonesia was free. But independence was just the beginning. Now they had to run a country with 17,000 islands, countless cultures, and dozens of languages. Some islands were huge and populous, like Java, home to nearly half of Indonesia's people, about 140 million. Others were small, each with unique identities. Indonesia had over 700 languages and more than 1,300 ethnic groups, including Muslims, Christians, Hindus, and Buddhists. How could so many different people stay united? The leaders came up with a national slogan, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity. They carefully chose the national language, not Javanese, the most spoken, but Bahasa Indonesia, a simpler language that everyone could learn. This way, no group felt left out. Jakarta was made the capital, and roads, schools, and communication networks were built to keep people connected. Still, unity wasn't easy. Some regions wanted independence. Aceh and Sumatra tried to secede. Papua has long demanded freedom. East Timor even fought a war and finally became independent in 2002. Despite these challenges, Indonesia has remained united, but the struggle continues. Geography adds to the difficulty. Indonesia lies on the Pacific Ring of Fire, the world's most dangerous seismic zone. It has over 130 active volcanoes, frequent earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, and landslides. In 1883, Krakatoa erupted so violently that its sound was heard 4,800 kilometers away. The eruption caused tsunamis that killed 36,000 people. In 2004, a massive 9.1 earthquake off Sumatra triggered a tsunami that killed over 200,000 across Asia, one of the deadliest disasters in modern history. Even today, disasters displace thousands every year. Meanwhile, Jakarta, the capital, is sinking by up to 25 centimeters in some areas due to groundwater overuse and rising seas from climate change. To ease the burden, the government is building a new capital, Nusantara, in Borneo. But building a city in dense forests is a costly and environmentally risky task. Indonesia's geography is both a blessing and a curse. The same volcanoes that make soil fertile can destroy villages. The same seas that connect islands can trigger deadly tsunamis. The monsoons that grow lush jungles can flood entire regions. Nature here is a double-edged sword. Governing such a country is incredibly hard. Unlike most nations, you can't connect provinces by highways because seas lie in between. Some villages in Papua can only be reached by planes or days of trekking. Even within one island, challenges remain. In Java, traffic is so bad that 100 kilometers can take 8 to 9 hours. Many islands still lack doctors, electricity, and reliable internet. About 73% of Indonesians have internet access, but nearly 70 million still live offline, widening the urban-rural divide. Indonesia's diversity itself is like a small version of the world. Javanese 40% of the population, Sundanese, Madarese, Balinese, Batak, Dayak, Bugis, and many more. Each has its own culture, music, food, and language. With 700+ local languages officially recognized, unity is fragile. That's why Bahasa Indonesia, the national language chosen in 1945, remains vital. It connects schools, government, and media, holding the nation together. Yet differences persist. Many Papuans feel ignored with distinct features, languages, and histories. Some movements for independence still exist. Aceh fought for years and today enforces Sharia law. In the 1990s and 2000s, religious clashes between Muslims and Christians shook Maluku and Central Sulawesi. To handle this, the government promotes the philosophy of Pancasila 5 principles, including belief in God, social justice, and unity taught in every school and institution. So now you understand. Indonesia is not just a country, it's a puzzle of 17,000 islands. A land of volcanoes and jungles, spices and colonial memories. From Bali's temples to Java's mosques, from Papua's forests to Sumatra's beaches, it is history, geography, and hard work woven together. But the future brings new challenges. Cities are sinking, China is increasing its presence in nearby seas, and maintaining unity across so many differences will only get harder. Governing Indonesia was never meant to be easy. But the future brings new challenges. Cities are sinking, China is increasing its presence in nearby seas, and maintaining unity across so many differences will only get harder. Governing Indonesia was never meant to be easy. Its founders knew it would take not just politics, but vision and unity to hold it together. And they did. That is why Indonesia remains one of the most unique and fascinating countries in the world.